During my college days, I met the love of my life, my first wife, Mary Jameson was her name. My senior year in college, we got married and we had our first child. What I consider the first great accomplishment in my life. Uh, she came a year before I graduated, a little more than a year before I graduated from college. Was a beautiful, smart girl. Her mother was an elementary school teacher and a Head Start teaching. So by 3 years old, my daughter was a fluent reader. And I used to take her to the bars with me when I didn't have anything to do. And one of the things she prided herself in is to be able to read every beer label that they set on. Yeah. I was not proud of it after I got older, but we put Budweiser at 4 years old, Miller High Life, she knew them all. She was a beautiful girl, a lot like her mother. I finally, after 4 years, finished college and being married. My wife had a job already in Chicago as a teacher at Chicago Public Schools. I finished college, I think, on June the 10th at 12 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I took a Greyhound bus to Chicago to join my wife and daughter. I lived in a kitchenette at 5007 South Prairie, immediately behind the subway L track. Every morning it sounded like the train was coming through my kitchen, but we had about 500 square feet there of a bedroom, a very small kitchen, and a small living room. My best friend told me, my brother-in-law I think it was, told me in April to go to Chicago from Kentucky, sign up that you're a college student and become a part-time bus driver so that when you get out of college, while you're looking for a professional job, being broke, you'll have a job and you'll have income. Because at that time, driving CTA bus paid the same thing it did teaching school. So I came up in April, signed up. So I got here June the 10th, June the 11th. I reported for training at Cuttie Station, Cuttie and Van Buren on the west side. I was trained 2 weeks to be a bus driver. In the 2 weeks, I was driving Roosevelt Road trolleys, Cuttie bus, Jackson and Madison and Washington bus, all day, working extra board. I did that for 6 months, looking for a job, and I finally got my first professional job. I was a professional public aid caseworker for Cook County Public Aid. My job was to visit homes and redetermine public assistance and aid to dependent children checks for people who were on public assistance. I didn't like the work, but I did like having a job that instead of a uniform, I put a suit and tie on every day. I had a desk and a telephone, and I carried a briefcase every day. My dream was to get a professional white-collar job where I did not have to do manual labor like I did all my life. So that was my first job of success. Fast forward, after more than a year and a half as a caseworker, they brought a special training program out, and I was able to be hired as a trainer for public aid recipients and how to work in restaurants. It was a crazy job with a crazy boss, but a very, very sharp black man was a master chef, headed the program. He trained us how to teach people to work in restaurants. I became a supervisor very quickly in the job and received about a 50% increase in my salary. Those were very happy days because I've always loved cars, and I bought my second new car in Chicago. My first new car was a 1963 Thunderbird. I drove it for 3 years. After I got my raise, I'd always dreamed of owning a Cadillac, so at 26 years old, I bought my first brand new Cadillac Coupe de Ville. I never will forget, I was earning $125 a week then. My payments were $125 a month. So 25% of my income was going for this Cadillac, but it was the love of my life. I could have got air conditioning in it and leather for another $20 more on the month, but I wanted to keep the payments down, so I selected the only Cadillac I've ever owned that did not have leather seats and did not have air conditioning. But it was a new Cadillac, and none of my buddies had a new Cadillac, so I became king of the road in my new Cadillac.
In fact, as you began to kind of lay your financial foundation and your success, what was it like being a caseworker and dealing with low-income people who were struggling and perhaps, familiar circumstances from your background? What was that like? What impression did that leave on you?
It was very difficult at first because I had always worked and figured out a way to get 2 jobs and hustle. And I'd never seen people that told me they couldn't get a job or that they didn't want a job. And many of them were, were very happy, not happy, but they were content getting a little shack and food stamps. I tried to motivate many of them, and some of them to some avail, help them get jobs and give them encouragement that you don't have to live like this. Most of my caseload was in housing projects, and I had never seen housing projects were 12 and 15, 20 stories high. In my hometown, they were 3 stories high. They looked like townhouses. And they wasn't bad then. Back in the 60s, you didn't worry about your safety. One, they knew I was a caseworker and that half of the building was on public aid. And I'd walk up the back steps and it was never bothered. It was a very peaceful area. But seeing the kind of poverty I saw and the hopelessness was depressing to me because I just felt from my limited experiences in life at 23, 24 years old, having struggled and worked and double time and gotten through college, I just thought everybody could do it like I did. I didn't know that when you had a support system like I had and a dad who had expectations and you had brothers and sisters pulling for you and you had all this huge support system and determination, that I just thought that was the norm. But I found out it was not the norm, and that many people did not have the opportunity I had, and neither did they have the drive, and neither were they going to do the things I did to get where I was.